found toward the bottom of Masechet Brachot Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Gemara Shma Mina Mitzvot Tzrichot Kavana. Learn from it that mitzvot require intention. So we should learn from this Mishnah that we saw earlier that said, Hayakore Batorah, if someone was reading from a Sefer Torah, V'higiyazman hamikra, and it came time to say the Shema, in kibin libo yatsa, if he fulfills his obligation, if he has intention, he fulfills his obligation. We see from that case that he only fulfills his obligation if he had kavana, if he had intention. Therefore, we can learn from this Mishnah that all mitzvot require intention. Now the Gemara asks, my im kivin libo, what does it mean if he intends in his heart? What does intention mean? Likrot, the Gemara answers, to read. The person needed to have the intention to read the Shema in order to fulfill his obligation. Likrot, the Gemara says, Bahakakare, how could it be that having intention only means to read? And behold, he was already reading. We know in the case that the person was reading from the Sefer Torah. When the Mishnah said, im kivin libo, if he has intention in his heart, that implies that he needs to do something different from what he was doing before. And if all he needs to do is have intention to read, then he was already doing that. So the Gemara answers and resolves this by saying, Bekore lahagia. This was a case when he was reading to correct. So we're going to read Rashi to help explain that idea of Bekore lahagia, that he was reading to correct. But based on this Gemara, it seems like the person who was in the Mishnah needed to go from having the intent to read to correct to having the intent to just read. So let's start with the Rashi. Gemara Shema Mina Mitzvot Tzrichot Kavana. This is where the Gemara said that mitzvot require intention. Shehei mitkavein l'shem mitzvot. When the Gemara said this, it was saying that you would have to have intention for the sake of mitzvot. Sorry. V'tikasheh l'Rabba, and this is difficult for Rabba. De'amar b'Masechet Rosh Hashanah hatokei l'asher yatsa, because Rabba says in Masechet Rosh Hashanah that one who blows the shofar for a song has fulfilled his obligation, which implies that Rabba thinks that mitzvot do not require kavana. Next Rashi, kivein likrot, he intended to read, aval latzei yidei mitzvah lo ba'inan, but we don't require him to have intention to fulfill a mitzvah. Sheyehei mitkavein ela likrot b'Torah ba'alma, that he would have to have intention just to read the Torah, merely to read from the Torah. And this is the last Rashi, Bekori lahagia. This is when the Gemara said that the person was reading to correct. Bekori lahagia et ha-sefer im yesh bo ta'ut. The person in the Mishnah was reading the Sefer Torah to see if there was a mistake in it. Ta'afilu l'kriyat nami lo mitzkavein. That even for reading, he also didn't intend. He didn't even have the intention to read. He only had the intention to look for mistakes in the Sefer Torah.